Hey everyone, welcome back to Low Budget Logistics, your logistics and supply chain explainer. Really quickly, thank you so much for everyone for subscribing. We've got over 1,000 people subscribed to the channel, which is just continually insane to me that there's 1,000 people who want to hear me ramble about logistics in the world of supply chain. So thank you so much for joining me on the journey. If you're new, please like the video, please subscribe. Hit the little bell notification so that you know when I upload new videos, either short or long form. I've kind of gotten away from long form recently in the 2024, but I'm going to get back into it, as you can tell. And if you want to support the channel, down below there is merchandise that I've made a shirt. If you want to buy it, by all means, it's a really cool design. So all that being said, let's get into it today. So as you can see, we're going to be talking about nearshoring. But first, I want to take us all back to a journey to like 1995, and Mortal Kombat was newly released. And in Mortal Kombat, you had these things called fatalities. And the most famous fatality of them all was definitely Scorpion. And Scorpion's fatality attack was that he could shoot a snake out of his hand, and it would reach the other combatant and bring them to him. He'd say, "Get over here," and he'd like bring them to you, and he'd eviscerate them. But that is effectively what nearshoring is. So let's first talk about that. So we've got our globe here. Here's the U.S., where most of us are, because I see my analytics and I've done analysis before. So this is the U.S. here, North America, South America. Most of our manufacturing happens over here in China and the Southeast Asia region. Now, there is a huge problem because there's this thing called the Pacific Ocean, which is the largest ocean on the entirety of the planet. You can see it takes up almost an entire hemisphere here. That's a lot of distance from where your stuff is made to where your stuff is bought. That can be a problem sometimes. In the world, like the post-COVID world, we realize that there's a problem there, that there's just too much space and too many things can happen when you don't have your supply near at hand. When your manufacturing is distant from you, a lot of things can happen, and it's just in the in the new world of the supply chain, really focused on resiliency rather than like just in time, where the supply chain is the kind of global conveyor belt is a little bit less dependable than it used to be. A lot of people are finding a lot more value in bringing their manufacturing closer to home, specifically Mexico. So in the past year, there was a report that was done last month in January of 2024, which indicated that the U.S.'s top trading partner had switched places from China being the main trading partner with the U.S. to Mexico. What happened was that a lot of U.S. businesses said, "Ooh, we need to bring that manufacturing closer in, and we need the next cheapest option, which is Mexico." Now, there's a lot of reasons why manufacturing didn't come back into the U.S. Specifically, the U.S. manufacturing is expensive, right? U.S. labor is very expensive. The only type of manufacturing that you typically see in the U.S. is for extremely valuable, really technical items, or things which are sort of a legacy that have been around for a long time, where the manufacturing and the industry has been really has been stabilized over a long period of time. So you see things like assembly of computers, really high-tech stuff. You'll see like Boeing is kind of the main manufacturer in the Northwest. So they manufacture planes. So Boeing manufacturing planes, or kind of in there's a lot of like automobile assembly, which is not necessarily manufacturing, that you see across the South and Southwest and Southeast. Those are the types of things that require a lot of skill. They're very technical. There's a lot of and they tend to be very high dollar items on the other side when you're selling them. So those are things that really manufacturing is kind of good to stay in the U.S. A lot of other stuff typically goes either to Mexico. Nothing really goes to Canada. Lots of reasons why. But Mexico is very favorable as a nearshoring location because it is party to the USMCA, which is kind of it replaced NAFTA, which was the North American Free Trade Agreement, basically saying that anything that was produced or manufactured there's some legal jargon in there dictating what manufactured really means. Anything produced in those areas in Mexico, the U.S., or Canada has free trade across all three of those borders. So there's no duty, there's no taxes that are going to be involved in there. So Mexico as a location is very enticing to someone looking to bring their manufacturing base back over from Southeast Asia to North America. And the manufacturing labor there is relatively inexpensive, not as cheap as producing overseas in like Southeast Asia, but it's still comparable, and there is a good amount of labor there. Now there are always problems when you move manufacturing. There's lots of costs involved. There's lots of retraining, retooling, actually building the manufacturing places for those things, and then there's a lot of red tape that you have to run through as well. So nearshoring is becoming more of a thing. I would expect the trend to continue as globally the supply chain becomes more unstable because of regional disputes and territorial issues, as we're seeing in places like Ukraine and in the Red Sea. So I would imagine there will be a lot more businesses which will kind of count the cost of resiliency into their books. And they'll start to bring products back to be manufactured closer to home. Now, all that being said, there's a lot of like raw materials that you can't get in Mexico. So nearshoring is kind of it is a thing. It means like your manufacturing is coming back, but with the caveat that raw materials are going to be produced wherever they can be sourced from, right? So if there is only nickel and lithium for a cell phone battery in China, which holds most of the Earth's rare earth metals, that's where it's going to be made. So the global supply chain will still, be global because raw materials exist, in trace amounts across the world. But the manufacturing and assembly will probably be done closer to where that demand is. Now, that was an example specifically for the US and that specific market. If you're in Europe, there are certainly a lot of countries which have lower price labor. Typically, like Eastern Europe is where that might be done. And there's different trade agreements there. But that's sort of the idea is to bring manufacturing as close to the demand as possible. Not only will it cut down on instability and allow for increased resiliency, but there's some gains to be made in transportation as well. So, instead of crossing the world on a boat, you're just going to, put something on a truck and truck it in, which, is relatively equitable, but it might get it to you faster. So there's lots of reasons to nearshore. Remember Scorpion, get over here. Ah! I'm a child of the 90s. What can I say? All that being said, thank you so much for watching today. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. If there's a topic that you want me to talk about, by all means, please let me know down below. Again, if you want to support the channel, there's merchandise. Buy a t-shirt if you'd like. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.